Okay, we are officially begun. Thank you so much, everyone, for attending and for joining us and watching the webinar whenever you are watching this. This is the first program in our spring speaker series for the Laurel Historical Society. And in case you haven't seen, it is going to be our biggest yet. This is the most panelists we've ever had, and I'm very excited that everyone was able to join us tonight. So we're going to be out for our biggest and best presentation yet. My name is Ann Bennett. I'm the Executive Director of the Laurel Historical Society, and I am joined by Monica Sturdivant. She is our Assistant Director. Monica, did you want to say anything?
Just welcome and thank you for coming to our program.
Excellent. All right. Thank you, Monica. And this is the first time that I've had the chance to introduce our new staff member. Riley Matson is our new museum manager. She joined us in the fall, and it's wonderful to be able to welcome another staff member. So Riley, did you want to say anything?
Happy that you all could attend our webinar and hope that you enjoy it all.
Yep, thank you so much. And Riley and Monica did a great job putting the slides together tonight, using some of our collection materials at the Historical Society, as well as some of the images from St. Mark's and the parishioners there. So we hope you enjoy the presentation as we go through tonight. And they will also be helping to moderate. So again, if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to put those either in the chat or the Q&A box. And before we even begin or go any further, I just want to give such a heartfelt thank you to all of our panelists and all of our presenters tonight, not only for their time tonight for this program, but also for the support of our upcoming exhibits. And I hope that many of you have heard by now that we are opening our new exhibit on Friday, February 18th. And it's called What's Cooking Laurel? Restaurants, Recipes, and Community. And it's really looking at all the different past, present, and future aspects of food in and around the Laurel area. And one part of that exhibit is on community cooking at St. Mark's United Methodist Church and the Grove, which is the historically African-American neighborhood in historic Laurel. But what you might not realize is that there is a lot going on behind the scenes at the museum, and something that you see on a wall that has maybe 200 words on a text panel and maybe a couple objects around it really represents months and months of intensive research and analysis and gathering and discussion and dialogue. And so that's really what this program was born from, is all those months of research and work that went into capturing the stories of just one small section of this exhibit. And we knew that that one small section just didn't do this topic justice. So thankfully, Sandra and Jackie were able to take the lead and to pull this presentation together with all the great folks over at St. Mark's. And so we're trying to expose the stories, the culture, the heritage, and most importantly, the food over at St. Mark's and the Grove. So that's what we're talking about tonight. And I hope that everyone just really enjoys and learns a lot about different parts of the history of Laurel. And most importantly, I guess I hope that you have eaten before you attended this webinar tonight, because I guarantee you'll be hungry afterwards if you have not eaten ahead of time. So I want to start off the introductions, first of all, by introducing Miss Jackie Jones. Jackie is one of our newest board members here at the Laurel Historical Society, and she was able to volunteer on quite a different committees and help us out with things like the exhibit research and the McSweeney March. And many of you know her not only from her work at St. Mark's, but also on the 150th committee, anniversary committee from the city of Laurel, and her work with the 5K run for diabetes. So Jackie, I'm gonna let you finish introducing yourself, and then we'll introduce the rest of our speakers.
Okay, thank you, Ann, and good evening. I'd just like to share with you that when I was asked to consider being a Laurel Historical Society board member, I was asked, what would I be interested in working on? And I replied, if selected, I would be interested in collaborating with the museum to establish and discover unknown information and contributions of Laurel's African-American community. Therefore, I am very excited about this evening's webinar, Food and Faith in St. Mark's and the Grove. I'm very proud of the fact that St. Mark's has representation in the What's Cooking Laurel exhibit. We have a wonderful panel of members this evening to bring the exhibit to life. There's nothing like first-hand experience. And this wouldn't have been possible without our very dedicated church historian, Sandra Johnson. Sandy put the panel together back in November to gather valuable information for the St. Mark's display. In addition to writing the script for the display panel, she also provided valuable information, historical information for the Grove tree ornament. So I'd like to right now just thank you, Sandy, for your love of the church history and expertise and enthusiasm. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Sandra Johnson to introduce our panel and facilitate the discussion. Thank you. And Sandy, I'm turning it over to you.
Thank you, Jackie. Good evening, everyone. First, I would like to thank the Laurel Historical Society for this opportunity to share the information about the historic Laurel Grove and St. Mark's United Methodist Church. I am also pleased to welcome 8 members of St. Mark's who, along with Jackie and myself, are panelists on this evening's webinar. First, we have Mrs. Mildred Awkward, who at 97, a youthful 97, I must add, is the oldest member of St. Mark's and whose remembrances of life in the Grove have been so valuable, and that's her waving.
Yes,
the other panelists are Judith James, Maurice Michael Carey, Brenda Jackson, Gail Gibson, David Burley, Barbara Jones, and Patricia Mundell. With the exception of Jackie, all of us grew up in the Grove and are lifelong members of St. Mark's. So these were the people who, really were able to share some great information for both the exhibit and for tonight's webinar. Before we talk about food, I would like to give a brief history of the Grove and St. Mark's. A large oak grove once stood across the street from St. Mark's United Methodist Church, located at 601 8th Street. Gigantic oak trees, some more than 200 years old, grew there. Hence, the local community became known as the Grove. The Grove was the area in Laurel to which African Americans were restricted to live in the 1800s. Many community and church-related activities, picnics, and baseball games were held in the old oak grove. The Grove became the center of Laurel's African American community. In the late 1950s, the Maryland State Road Commission constructed Route 198 through the Oak Grove. And I believe there's a slide of a beautiful, really tall oak tree that was once located on the site of the new Laurel Library. In 1890, St. Mark's was founded by Frank Carter and his wife, Sarah Hebron Carter. When you speak of the Laurel Grove, instinctively, you think of St. Mark's. The two are synonymous. And we had a slide of St. Mark's as well. So a few slides of St. Mark's that are going to be shown. Now, this photo that's being shown now is St. Mark's before our fellowship hall and our kitchen were added. In the glorious 132 years, St. Mark's has gone from being a part of the Laurel Charge, where we shared a pastor with 2 other churches, to becoming a station church. We have been blessed with several structural changes, such as a newly built fellowship hall and kitchen that was done, renovation that was done, finished in 1979, and remodeling to our building, sanctuary, and parsonage, now called the Level Place Ministry Center. And the parsonage, the level place, is located right next to the church on West Street. Since our beginning in 1890, St. Mark's has been led by 29 pastors and 7 assistant pastors. And if you're looking at the photo on the left shows our first building. And then on the right side is our building before our renovations were done. St. Mark's is a church that is continuously ready to help its members and the community in any way possible. Since the COVID-19 pandemic, we're doing things differently, but we are still moving forward, moving toward what God wants us to be. And then there's the last slide, shows you the church how it appears today. The next slide. With the addition with the kitchen and the fellowship hall. That's how our church looks today. So we can move on to the next slide. Since 1902, Emancipation Day in the Laurel Grove has been an annual celebration commemorating the Emancipation Proclamation when President Abraham Lincoln freed the slaves in America. This photo shows the Emancipation Day Parade in 1910. This is the Grove's major annual event. Emancipation Day is Laurel's oldest festival, as well as one of the nation's oldest African-American festivals. Emancipation Day is still celebrated at St. Mark's on the first Saturday in September. Emancipation Day was known for the baseball games, parades, community gatherings, and most importantly, the food. People would come from the surrounding areas of Baltimore and Washington to purchase food and eat very well. The women of the Laurel community and St. Mark's worked together to prepare and cook the food. Food preparation began several days before the celebration. All the food was homemade, very little, if anything, was store-bought. So this is where I'm going to bring in my panelists. So right now, panel, let's talk about our memories of how we saw our relatives prepare and cook the food for Emancipation Day, because I got a lot of information as to the types of things that people remembered. And so if anybody wants to jump in, feel free. Judy, do you have, are you able to unmute yourself?
Yes, ma'am, I
Okay.
was.
'Cause you told me a whole lot about that.
I know that, you know, the like Miss Awkward and them, they would have like a dessert table. Everything was made. Certain people would do the chicken, potato salad. I know that my grandmother way back when, she used to make cupcakes. They never made it out of the house. They never got over to the picnic because everybody was buying them. But everybody came together and pitched in. We, you know, nobody had to spend money, just pitched in and did everything. We just had a ball.
Mhm.
Yeah. I just remember the ladies would start maybe that week, they would be at the church doing things like cleaning the chickens and cooking all the potatoes and dicing the potatoes for the potato salad and cutting up all the ingredients. And I mean, it wasn't the Emancipation Day, the food just didn't appear. I mean, this was days and days of preparation. Miss Awkward, I'm sure you're one of the ladies who was at the church helping to do all that kind of stuff.
Oh, yes. Would be start in doing the early part of the week, and then it would go on all week. And of course that day, all day and half the night. But as I recall, the food was prepared by our church people. And some of those older people, older than me, I'm 90, but they were older than me. They would be up all night long.
Yeah.
Cooking.
Yeah.
cleaning and preparing all the food that they were going to have on that day. And also, I guess is one of my fondest remembers was how we as church group at that time would get together. It was like just a big family, and work and prepare and do everything we had to do in love. And it was just wonderful, very hardworking, but it was also so enjoyable.
Sandy?
Oh, go ahead, Pat.
Hi, I remember getting ready for the picnic. My grandmother, Gertrude Matthews, she made homemade rolls. And the rolls, she would mix the dough up like on a Friday Friday, because the picnic was Saturday. And it would be a big ball. When we came home from school, it would just be a big ball. And she would put it in a great big old white tub, sit it on top of the stove overnight. And when we got up, of course, she got up with the chickens. And when we got up, the dough would have risen up out of this pan. And she would just wash her hands and get ready. And she had her pan ready. And she would pull the dough up. And she took the dough in her hand and did it like that and put it in each pan. But my grandmother made her pie crust from homemade. The crust was made in another pan. And when she got ready to make her lemon meringue and apple pies, I never seen my grandmother use a measuring cup. It was always a pinch and a dump, a pinch and a dump. I remember, but me now, as I cook, I need a measuring cup and a spoon. But my grandmother never, ever saw a measuring cup on the table. You just saw the flour, the sugar, the vanilla, whatever they use. I don't know if the ladies had a measuring cup, but it was good food. Yes.
And everything, David, were you going to speak?
Yes, I want to add on to a little bit of what Pat was talking about, because, excuse me, we're both coming out of the same family. So you know that we've tasted both of us had tasted our grandmother's food, probably more Pat than me because she lived with them. But you got to remember too that back in those days that the money wasn't like it is. You know, they didn't have all that money, but my grandmother would use the best of ingredients. You know, it wasn't no margarine back then. I don't know if it probably was, but I don't remember. But I know she would use butter for her ingredients. And like Pat said, I can remember the clover rolls she would make. And the same way with all the rest of the family. We come from a community of large families in that community. You know, Matthews, the Gibsons, the Morgans, the Currys, and all of them. You know, we never had no whole bunch of money, but we survived and knew how to survive and to raise our families. And you know, we also got to remember that around in there and in that area, our parents worked domestic work. And I know that, you know, the money wasn't wasn't the best of anything then, but they were able to raise their families on that income. And we were able to get education from that income. And it was just amazing how they could do things when you think back of the way things are, the time is now. So
I just saw someone had just put something in the chat about recipes. And that's that's one of the downfalls because even though everything was homemade,
Everything.
you didn't write anything down. As Pat said, it was a pinch of this or that. I mean, you know, you rarely saw them measure, you know, it was and that's because I wish that I had the recipe for my grandmother's lemon meringue pie.
Yeah.
You know, or Pat, you probably wish you had the recipe for your grandmother's homemade rolls, or
I do.
That type of thing, or her pie crust. You know, and everything was all the food was homemade.
Homemade.
You know, you didn't go to the bakery and get cakes or pies. you know, or rolls. Basically, all the food was homemade, which made it really so well.
Yeah.
And even to this day, because I told you we still celebrate Emancipation Day on the first Saturday in September, people still come for the food.
Right.
You know, they still
Right.
come, and it's
Yeah.
our largest fundraiser. And most of the money comes from the sale of food, dinners,
Yes.
desserts, things like that. And still to this day, we still have people who like Pat, because Pat's cake, her cakes are infamous in the church. And you know, people who make homemade pies and things like that. So a lot of the traditions have still been passed on. And when we were talking about some of the way the food was prepared and whatnot, we also went over some of the ladies who had different types of special dishes, their specialties in the Grove. And it was really hard to name all of them because, you know, basically every lady in the Grove were excellent cooks, you know. And it was really hard to pinpoint, but like David's mother, his mother, Miss Catherine, her crab cakes were, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Now, if you think that you go to a fancy seafood restaurant now and, you know, you enjoy the types of crab cakes that they have, well, his mother's crab cakes were, oh my. You know, if there was dinner or something being sold and they said crab cakes, and you would always ask, did Miss Kathy make the crab cakes? And if they said yes, then you knew you were eating good. Some of the other things like Pat's grandmother, her rolls. Also Gail, well, she's not on, but Gail's mother, Miss Ellen Gibbs, she her rolls were just fabulous. Some people did the potato salad. Miss Awkward, as I talked about, her pound cake. There was just
and
so
Aunt
many
Helen
things.
and also remember, Aunt Helen, you're all old enough. Her little meringue pies. I know bad enough. Yeah.
Yes. Didn't she make a good apple pie too?
Yes, she was a very good cook.
Yeah. You remember all those things because when you had a you know, when you had a meal at St. or like I said, there were dinners being sold. I mean, there was so much that so many types of things that were done at St. Mark's that required money, and the money came from the sale of food. Because St. Mark's was known for its good, I mean, really good food, as I'm sure other churches in the area as well. But we were always known for our really good food. Because I know my mother made a really good coconut cake, and we talked about Miss Mary France and her caramel cake, and I mean, it was just. It's the one that we all didn't weigh like 500 pounds,
right?
But
and you know, Sandy, when we had something at the church, you heard people say, "Oh, I can't wait to get up St. Mark's," or if they can't, they be saying, "Y'all fed up." You know, they don't want to leave. They say, "I'm telling you, when you come to St. Mark's, you're gonna get a good meal. Y'all fed us." So that's because of good cooking, and the generation just on and on.
Right. It's been passed down. It's been passed down. It really has. It really has.
Yes.
Well, Sandra, before we move on to the next point, we had a request to maybe go around among the panelists and name your favorite dish, the one that the one that you either make really well or that is associated with you or your family. So can we hear everyone's top favorites?
Okay, David, we'll start with you.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, could I get that question again? Because I'm having problem with my speaker and my sound. Could you answer that?
Your favorite dish.
My favorite dish.
Right, or your favorite dish from back in the day. Your favorite dish.
Ooh, my. I like the fried chicken. And potato salad. I want the whole meal. I want the fried chicken, potato salad, the green bean. All that was my favorite dish. And when you get to the desserts, like you were talking about, you know, there was some good lemon pies made back then, and that's lemon pies for dessert. That's my favorite dessert, lemon meringue pie, especially if you got that nice meringue that stands up and gives you the little fluff on the top. I know that takes me back to the old days, and that's what
And you know what else? Not only was the food good, the food was pretty.
Yes, pretty.
Yeah.
You know,
Pretty.
it was pretty to look at. Sometimes those cakes and pies would look so good you didn't even want to cut them, but you know, you had to. Miss Awkward, what was your favorite?
Probably, I guess most of you, the younger people know, I think it's kind of some of the younger of yours generation, my cold oven pound cake.
Okay. Right. Cold oven pound cake. You're gonna have to tell us just how that is made, because I know you said I know it started with a cold oven, but you know, now we don't start ovens cold. They got to be preheated to 350. So you're gonna have to talk to us about that. But then,
so I think that's where it really originally got its name from, because it started in a cold oven. Yes.
Mike, what about you? Your favorite dish?
Me?
No, I'm talking to Michael.
Okay. Baked beans, potato salad, and hot dogs.
And listen, our homemade baked beans didn't come out of a Campbell's pork, didn't come out of a can. They were homemade baked beans.
That's right.
Homemade. Homemade. Judy, what about you?
I like everything. I like the crab cakes. I like the chicken. I like the potato salad. I like the baked beans. I like all the dessert. You name it, I liked it. So they was good. And let me tell you, Aunt Helen's lemon meringue pie, to die for. I
have actually not tasted any like it. Maybe you all have, but I have not.
It was so addicted. You eat a piece, and then you got to go back and get another piece. It was, you know, hers wasn't with the like they have now. Hers was the old fashioned, and I make them myself. And I'm telling you, man. Aunt Helen, can you make me a pie? And I was getting a pie like every other week. Good. But I like all the food. Because
what
it was
about
clean.
You, Pat? I'm sorry. What'd you say, Judy?
It was clean. It was fresh. You know, and back then chickens came out your yard. They didn't come from the store. Don't get it twisted. You know, it came from.
You're right.
Yeah, right.
In the yard, right. It came from out your yard.
Yeah.
And that was chicken. I don't know what we're eating now, but that was chicken.
Frankie Bubby them used to run down the yard and catch the chicken and bring it to Uncle Tiny, and Uncle Tiny would cut the head off. But my favorite was my mom. My mom was a good cook. She was a domestic worker for 54 years for Mr. and Mrs. Bell. And my favorite, my mom, was her ham, cabbage, and potatoes, and that homemade corn pudding. My mother could make the best corn pudding in the world. I mean, because we would eat it, and I make it now, and I think I'm on her heels. I'm right on her heels. She didn't use no canned corn or anything. My mother made the best. And her brownies, woo, and her gingerbread, to die for. Yeah.
You could fry some potatoes and fish too.
Yeah, but
you know I'm surprised nobody's talked about that, because one of my favorites was the fried fish.
Oh yeah,
my gosh, my fish was, oh my goodness, and it was always fresh.
Yeah,
because there was you all remember when the fish
where they come from, Pat?
Marty girl,
yes,
Marty.
People come around and everybody brought their fish right from him. It was like it came right from the ocean to his truck.
Yeah,
and the fish was so fresh and it tasted so good. And the fried fish, I mean, it was fried perfectly. And I loved the fried fish.
Oh yeah. But you know, my grandma.
So
My
Barbara,
grand-
did you have a favorite? I don't know if she can hear us because her camera's not on.
Sandy.
Uh-huh.
My grandmother made most of her jelly and pickles. We didn't buy that. She made her jelly,
yeah.
relish, everything. She used to hang the pickle relish in a pillowcase on the clothesline so
Yeah.
it could drain down. And when the essence drained down, me and Debbie and Brent would go out there with a pan and put it in jars. And she had like a little closet. And we would put it in. Our grandmother never bought jelly, pickles, or relish. She made all of that. Yeah,
That's right.
she made
Well,
that.
that would be a good time to bring up the fact that this is something that, well, I remember people having gardens
Mhm.
in their yards because, as David said, there was not a lot of money in the Grove, but we ate well.
Oh, yeah.
We
Yeah.
ate healthy and we ate well. And I just remember people having gardens and canning or freezing, canning their fruits, freezing their fresh greens and green beans and other vegetables. And I remember people having grapevines, big grapevines, and they would use the grapes for their jellies and things like that. And I mean, it was just such a variety of good things. And you would eat off of those frozen or canned things all winter.
That's
I
right.
can remember what Sandy was talking about. You know, we had a small grapevine in our yard, and our grapes were like the purple grapes.
Those Concord grapes.
In the next yard beside us, Miss Katie and Miss Alpha, they had the white grapes, and we would share each other. But like Sandy say and Pat said, my mom would make her jam off of it or jelly off of it. And we also had a garden where a little garden down the back. We would preserve the foods and put them up. She would put them up in cans and keep them and use them when we needed them. So that was a thing around in the Grove that a lot of people would do. You know, with the little pieces of land that they had. You know, they would make sure they put the little garden on it and provide it for their families and all. And she also made root beer.
Yeah, Mom.
I used to go out on the back and see this crop out there. And I just, for a while, wonder what it was and stuff. And she would keep that covered up and the root beer would come out of it. I guess, besides other collations that was being made back there and stuff.
You're talking about like homemade wine?
Yeah, when them grapes ferment, you can get some good grape wine off of the grapes.
Yeah, I know. Oh boy, that brings back such great memories of the way we grew up and seeing how our parents and grandparents, especially our grandparents, our grandparents did so much with just a little. And when I'm saying a little, I'm talking about a little monetarily, but they just did so much. And it's really nice to sit back and just to bring up all those memories again. I thank you all for everything that you've shared. I think let's see, along with the other the good food from the church, we also talked about the Laurel Stars, because you can put that, you'll see a picture of the Laurel Stars baseball team and the Sandlot baseball team from the 20s, and I think they went on until the 60s. And they played their home games in the old Oak Grove. Several of our fathers, brothers, uncles, cousins, family friends were either players, managers, bat boys for the team. And because most of these gentlemen, all these gentlemen had full-time jobs, all the games were played on Sunday after church and on Sunday afternoon. So I remember going to the games. and people would have would have food there, lunches, dinners, fried chicken, potato salad, the whole works. And it didn't matter if you just were a visitor, there was enough food between the families there to just feed everyone. And Miss Awkward, I'm sure that you did, because you know, Miss Awkward's husband was the first baseman on the team, and I'm sure you remember preparing food to take to the games as well.
Oh, yes. And you know, also we'd go on Sundays to games, but we went to church first.
Oh yeah, that's what I'm saying. Everybody,
school,
the games were at the church.
And then you went to the games. That was every day Sunday if the weather permit.
Right, because like I said, I just remember my mother, like I said, frying chicken, making potatoes. So it wasn't just like a sandwich. That one, it was going to be a good meal. And if she made a cake or something, it was just going to be. So there was just good food all around, even at that. So it's like good food was happening all the time.
Yeah.
And food preparation, food sales, and good eating has always been important to the African Americans in the Laurel Grove. Whether you were participating in Emancipation Day celebration, purchasing food at St. Mark's, or going to someone's house, you knew you would be eating delicious food. Unfortunately, back in the day, very few people used written recipes, as I said. The ingredients were passed down from generation to generation. During our focus group discussion, it was difficult to name everyone's specialty dishes because almost every lady in the Grove was an excellent cook.
Yeah.
And the women in the community in St. Mark's also, they worked so well together to donate, prepare, and cook the food and baked items, also for funerals and weddings. No caterers were used. Everything was homemade, cooked in somebody's kitchen, because back in the day, before 1979, the church didn't have a kitchen.
Right.
So all the food was prepared in people's homes, not at the church, not as we know it today. And so also in our focus group, we talked about community cooking, and not just at the Grove. And we also talked about, so you can see the types of foods that we have there. The pictures there just show some of the celebrations. And I'm not certain. Jack, if you took these pictures, do you know what this was from?
It looked like Valentine's Day.
Jackie? Is Jackie on? So I think these pictures were taken by Jackie. Jackie Jones.
Sandy, I received a call from someone trying to get in. And what were you saying?
Oh, I was saying these pictures you took, was this from, I know it's at the church. It doesn't look like a big food celebration. It just looks like, was this an after?
That was Reverend Matthews. That's Reverend Matthews' reception when he first came.
Okay.
Okay. Remember, we had a little repast right after.
Right. Because it doesn't look like a big spread. It just looks like some type of brunch or something. But yes, and we also talked about the types of things, fundraisers, or how people sold things from their homes or in their backyards. We talked about how certain people sold watermelon slices during the summers. The church, like especially youth groups, they would sponsor things like weenie roast. Those of us, I'm sure we all remember weenie roast, and we don't even hear people talking about things where they just did was that when they did the hot dogs on the grill, or a hot dog on the open fire, or
hot dogs on hangers and stuck them in the fire.
The open fire. That's right. That's right. Yeah, you would undo the clothes hanger and stick it in the hot dog, and just somebody would build a big fire, and you would just stick that on the open fire. But they were good though.
They were
real good. The types of things that people did, selling cupcakes and cookies out of their homes. I remember Miss Helen Matthews, who lived next door to my grandmother. I mean, she always sold, I mean, you all can remember Mrs. Selling cakes and gingerbread and stuff like that out of her home.
Yeah.
People selling snowballs on their, having a snowball machine on their front porch, or either shaving it, manually shaving the ice so that you could, you know, get a snowball, or and of course, people, the church selling dinners and crab feasts. I mean, you know, now my parents never did. I just went and I purchased it. But did anybody's parents actually do that? Do the selling or of any kind from your home? Or you just, like me, you just went and you just bought it? And it was cheap too, because look, a nickel and a dime would go a long way, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
And he used to do the snowballs, Sandy.
That was Gil now.
No, Anissa did it first.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I just remember that, and you just, you know, after the hot day out in the sun, and you know, you could just go to somebody's porch and just purchase something, because, you know, there were no, you know, like today where you could just go to a snowball stand or whatever. I mean, that just was, everybody just basically did those types of things out of their homes. And some people sold candy and chips and sodas, things like that.
That was Uncle Ted and Mary Bird, Uncle Ted and Aunt Mary in the church.
Right, they sure did. They sure did. I do remember them selling stuff like that from their home. And you all are bringing so many things up that are so far back in my mind that are just coming to the forefront right now. And now this was remembrance that I don't recall, but some of you all remember. They said there was a small store in the Grove that was operated by a lady called Big Bessie. I for some reason I don't remember that, but some of you did. Do you all remember that?
Yeah.
Where did Big Bessie live at? She live in Bakertown?
She lived on 8th Street.
Okay,
she lived on 8th Street, but I think I remember that store being right across from where Bertie and them lived up is living now.
And it was
like on West Street?
Across from the level place. In that house there.
Okay. So on West Street. Okay.
Yeah, on West Street. I can remember a store being there, and I believe that was the one that Big Bessie, you know, that she run. Yeah.
And she was from Lakeland. Big Bessie was from Lakeland.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Lakeland.
Yeah.
Did she just come to Laurel to operate the store, or she lived there as well?
She lived there, Laurel. She lived there.
Yeah.
You know, she had a friend, a husband, a significant other, whatever you want to call him, and they lived there together.
Okay. Now, we were also asked about where the residents in the Grove did their grocery shopping. And
that's not it.
Because I was too young. I remember somebody talking about there was an Acme store located on Main Street.
Yeah, Main Street. Yeah.
Okay. Now, do you all remember if, were African Americans welcome there, or?
Sure.
Yeah.
It was okay.
Yeah,
Okay. So our money was good there. Okay. Because
actually it was called Ellis. It was called Ellis before no Acme.
Okay, it was Ellis. Oh, okay.
Ellis.
ELLIS.
ELIS. Yep, Ellis.
Okay.
When I came up, it was Acme on Main Street next to Bob's Cabs.
In Laurel.
Yeah, it was called.
And Ellis was a separate store. You know, it was. Those were two different stores.
Okay.
But they were welcome. You were welcome.
Okay. Very good. And I do remember a couple of corner stores The one at the top of 9th Street where police
Slattery.
department used to be,
Slattery.
Slattery's. And then I
Slattery.
do remember the one up there off of Sandy
Right.
Spring Road where Ben's, what was that, Timmons or Fife, something like
Fife.
that.
Timmons back then.
Okay, okay, because I remember if you just needed a loaf of bread or something small purchase, then your grandparents or your parents would send you there to walk
Not
there to get that.
Not the
Thank you,
fight
Sandra.
though.
And
That was
Well,
my question.
Fife's was more like a
beer store.
tavern. It was like
Yeah.
it was
Yeah.
because it had like a small store on one side, and then the bar or tavern was the larger
Right.
part of it.
Yes.
Yeah,
And then
I recall that correctly.
we had
Okay.
5 and dime, Poland's.
Oh yeah, I
Right.
do remember
Yeah.
that. Was that on Main Street?
That was on Main Street, right across from Acme, from the Acme.
Okay. Okay.
Yes. And you had the newsstand on the corner.
Hmm.
And,
Sandra, what was it again? What was it called? Fife's, the store you mentioned before?
yes.
First it was Timmons.
Tim-
What?
Timmons, Timmons, Timmin, Timmons, I believe it was. Yeah. something
Yeah,
like
then it changed to Fife.
that. Mm.
Okay.
Right.
And
Mhm.
and we black people could only go on one side. We couldn't go on the bar side.
No, we could only go in the small store part.
Yeah. Mhm.
Bar.
Oh,
So not on the bar side. We went on the store side.
We went on the store side. We weren't welcome in the bar side.
mm.
No.
Mhm.
And yeah, I do remember that going there because sometimes I would prefer to go to Slattery's on 9th Street other than going in there.
Mhm.
The number
Mhm.
one
And
Slattery's was a lot.
don't forget Mr. Carver, who had a store down on 9th Street. David, you remember that at all?
I don't remember that.
You don't
Well,
remember
what was the name of it again?
Mr. Carver? What's his name, Carver?
Yeah, Mr. Carver with the one leg. I don't remember
Yes, he
that.
did. Yes, he did. Now that you
Oh,
mention
okay.
it,
Yeah, I do remember
yes,
that.
Mr. Carver did have a store down there. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
Yeah.
I remember that. As soon as you said he had like a limp or something.
One leg.
One
Yeah,
leg.
one
As
leg.
soon as you said that, I remember.
Yeah.
Michael, I'm surprised when Michael's on. I'm surprised you didn't remember that, Mike.
I don't
Um,
remember.
I do remember that.
What,
You had
what,
Miss
what
I
was,
remember it.
what was
you
the
had
name of the 5 and dime that you mentioned across from the Acme?
Poland's.
Poland.
Called
Poland,
Poland's 5 and dime.
Okay.
Poland Lights.
Lights was the store up on the street across from Porcy's.
I
That's right.
don't know. I think
Yeah,
it might be talking,
across
I think it was Keller's. I think it used to be Keller's down on that end, I believe it's called.
That was the newspaper place.
Stand, that's
That
a
was the
newspaper.
Yeah.
Kelly on the corner by Poland's. Yeah. And then you had Miss Rennis that lived where Penny and them lived, sold watermelon. Y'all remember Miss Rennis?
Yes, I remember that. I remember her son. I knew it was somebody in the Grove who sold the
Uh-huh.
watermelon slice. I couldn't remember who it
That
was.
was Miss Winters. That was Miss Winters that lives in the house where Floyd and them is at now.
That's
Okay.
right, Miss Rennis.
Right.
Miss Rennis
Right.
with all on the table. That's right, Miss Rennis.
So going back to the Ellis Market, we had talked to several of our members back in May for Jewish American Heritage Month. So the Ellis family was Jewish, and they operated the store on Main Street. And at that time, a descendant of the family had told us that there was a special door in the back of the store that would serve African American customers. Do any of you remember or can verify if that was true or not? Because this came from a different generation of the family.
I can't.
I don't
Yeah.
think so.
I
I don't
remember.
recall that.
I don't think so.
I mean,
We were in
because
the
what
front
you're
door.
talking. So
What was that?
Maybe you're talking about back when, because that store was probably there a long time. Maybe you're talking about something that maybe have happened when during our grandparents' time.
Very possibly, because I think they had it from roughly like the 20s to the 50s or something. So
Yeah. Because that would have been what they experienced, not so much what we did.
We had our own cab driver too.
What was that,
Sandy.
Mike?
We had our own cab driver.
Yeah,
Our own cab driver, Booker T.
Cab drivers.
Booker T, yeah.
Booker T.
Yeah,
Okay. Okay.
yep. That was a
I do remember
that
that
was a
name.
black cab driver around there in the area, Booker T.
Yeah, and
Okay.
Sandra, not to derail you too much from your script, but I want to share the screen because you had mentioned about the bar side of Fifes. And does anyone remember or know anything about Matthews Bar?
Oh yeah, I was gonna
Yeah.
get to that slide. Now, the Matthews Bar,
Was right
I
there.
mean, we remember where it was. It was located on West Street. We remember
Yeah.
where it was. However, probably other than Mrs. Awkward, we
Yeah.
were too young to patronize it. That's someplace that our parents went.
Mhm.
And Mrs. Awkward gave me some great information about that, about how they sold chicken sandwiches on the weekends.
Yes.
And it was known as, because see, I never, Matthews Bar, when you told me about that, I couldn't remember that because I remember it as being called Houses.
Mhm.
And it
When I
was
see that
called
Matthews
Houses.
up there, I don't even remember that, but
Me
I'm
neither.
Right.
yeah.
We used to call it House's Place because House was the nickname of the gentleman who owned it. And he lived next door, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, he lived
That
next
was
door.
Laura's father. That was
And
Laura
That's
Oh,
right.
oh.
And unfortunately, because I was telling Ann, because I always wanted to talk to one of our members, Ms. Laura Dodson, about the Matthews Bar because her father owned it. And unfortunately, over the last year or so, she had really been dealing with some health issues. And she did pass away in December at the age of 92. And because I really always wanted to get to talk to her because the Matthews Bar intrigued me because I had forgotten all about it until Ann just showed me a picture of it. Because like I said, when she said Matthews Bar, I said, I don't remember a Matthews Bar, but then we're talking about it more. I just remember it as Houses. I mean, is that what you all remember being called too?
Yeah.
Yep.
And like I said, I mean, we like David had told me, David, you said you never went in there, but you could hear the music on the weekends.
I could set up in my bedroom and listen at them. Couldn't go out there to it, but I could hear it. Yeah.
Yeah, because
And
like
also,
I said,
that later on was taken over by the Gibson, as a snack bar.
right? Because I see that in the chat. You're correct about that. Mr.
Yeah.
William Gibson did later open that as a snack bar. Now that I do remember because I remember going in there and he would have this big jar on the counter where you could get the
Pickled pig feet.
pickled pig feet and
Hot
the
sausage.
hot sausage, the sour pickles, and oh my goodness. I remember all of that. Thanks for bringing that up, Val. I think Valerie brought that up in the chat about how Mr. William Gibson, he opened up a store there. I do remember that.
Do you remember? You remember
ahead.
your father opening up one too?
Yes, I remember that. And that's located where the
Library.
new library is. When he first opened that building, it was a little snack bar, barbershop, hair salon, pool hall.
Pool hall. Mhm.
Right. And then he changed it later on down the years, he changed it into three apartments in that one building. So yeah, I do remember that. I remember that.
You used to call it Bill Curry Snack Bar.
Yes. Yeah. I remember going to Baltimore with him to this place on Pennsylvania Avenue. It was like a wholesale place for snacks. And he used to buy all the big packages of, of the potato chips and all the snacks that he purchased. It was right. It was on Pennsylvania Avenue in Baltimore. I would go with him to do that. Oh, you are bringing up stuff that I had almost forgotten about. Yes, indeed. Now, Miss Awkward, is there anything else you want to say about the Matthews Bar?
You all just about cover it.
Okay. Yeah, because it was I guess it was the place to go on the weekends.
You know what? Strange as it was, I never went there that much, very rarely. And when I went because went with someone else.
Oh, okay.
I guess it's because you kind of have to like the beer and whatever. And I was not a beer drinker.
Oh, listen, I remember you called it to the beer garden.
Yeah. I'd go down there and stand outside just to be, as a matter of fact, I can remember my sister who was older than me. And she'd take me, say, come on, walk down there. And but she was old enough to have a beer and she liked her beer. And I walked down there with her because it was walking distance, from my house. So, but I just never was a beer drinker, so I didn't go too much. But I went down just to get out the house. Where else was it for us to go out here in the Grove? It wasn't too many places we could go.
And we also talked as a group about Laurel being segregated, which we all knew it was. And because when Ann first brought up the topic about food, about where we went to, what restaurants did we go to, and things like that. And I said, we didn't go to any restaurants. I mean, African Americans were not welcome to go and sit down and order food in any restaurant in Laurel. I mean, I can't even think of any restaurants that were in Laurel. I remember carryouts where you could go and, order the food and take it out to eat, but to actually sit down and eat, no, that wasn't happening.
Wasn't like that then, no. I say it wasn't like that back then. I agree with you there, Sandy. We had the carryouts down on Route 1 and a couple of them coming from Fort Meade. What was it? Shaw's or
Shoreline.
Places like that, but they weren't too many restaurants where we can sit down and eat in.
We had the hamburger place to go.
Right. We had like the fast food places, Sub, maybe like you said, because Shaw's that was going towards
Fort Meade.
Fort Meade, and they used to do like the barbecue, like the ribs and stuff like that.
All that, they did everything, pig feet, chitlins, anything you wanted.
Right. I do remember them.
Yeah.
And Michael had brought up to me about Herbs located on Route 1, but that was the same thing where you could just go there and order.
No, that was Tags. It was Tags. Tags.
Tags. Oh, I'm sorry.
Tags, Italian restaurant.
Okay.
You went to Shane. Shane's had tables on the right wall. I doing my Uncle Fat stuff one night. I went down there and got him. They had you had like little booths you could have ate in there. I remember that. I mean, Shane was a good person. He did not bother you. He had that old dirty.
This was in Laurel?
Yes, he had on Main Street on Route 1. Shane had foot-long shrimp subs and everything, and he had like wasn't a whole lot of little booths, a couple little booths, and my Uncle Fat stuff and Charlotte's brother Petey and some of the older fellas ate there, but it wasn't like a real sit-down place. It was just a little booth, but Shane never bothered them, never. Yeah.
So you saying Shane's was like a carryout, don't that?
Yeah, Shane's carryout. You went in there and you.
I think they want to get to where we can sit down and get a nice plate of.
No.
Filet mignon and baked potatoes and stuff like that.
Ain't happening. No. We didn't. No. Look, you had to go to Baltimore or DC to get that.
That's right. Yeah, not down there, David. But Shane's was a little carryout. It was good.
Look, but I do remember what you all were talking about when the Laurel Shopping Center opened and Kresge's and what was the other one?
Woodwork.
Woolworths.
Yeah,
And maybe People's Drugstore too. They had the lunch counters, and you
That's
could
right.
go and sit down and
yes, you were welcome.
eat
there.
there. So we were welcome to do that.
Mhm.
But a
Sandra,
fancy
in the chat, someone asked,
Sandy,
go
you had Hot Shop down the bottom of the hill. Y'all don't remember Hot Shop down where the old Hex was? You had Hot Shot.
Yeah.
Sister Cajun was
Yeah.
right down there by the movie theater. Yeah, we had that. You could go in there and eat.
Mm-hmm.
And you were saying?
No, I was sorry for interrupting. I was just wondering, like, you know, when do you recall kind of it changing when you were able to go to restaurants more in Laurel? You know, was it when the bigger chain restaurants started coming in? Was it when more restaurants started to turn over on Main Street?
Well, maybe some of the other panelists can address this because even though I grew up in Laurel, I've lived my entire adult life in Baltimore. So I don't.
Let me hear the question again.
Wanted to know about when did things start to change, where people went to eat in restaurants in Laurel and things like that. Do you all recall?
Not until
I don't recall.
Mm-mm.
We're talking about the 70s.
Integrating. I say it didn't really. It wasn't that any change until they start integrating.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, because this was the things that happened were way after schools were integrated.
Yeah.
Because I always went to an integrated school my entire first grade on. So I mean, so things were still kind of, I mean, the schools were integrated, but certain things in the city of Laurel was still segregated. I mean, because as a young person, I never went to the Laurel pool.
Right.
I just remember going to the Laurel movie theater, the older that I got. I don't remember. There were still certain things that African Americans were not welcome to do.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you ask that question, Ann, about when things kind of changed, it had to have been after I left Laurel.
Mm-hmm.
Around the 70s, I think.
Yeah, so it's probably around the 70s.
70s, I think around the 70s. It wasn't nothing. Yeah.
And then that time too, Laurel wasn't as developed as it is now.
Right.
Where you didn't have the types of choices that you had then as you do now. So, you know, you didn't have the big variety of really nice restaurants and places to really go.
Yep, that's right.
Because I think probably the carry-out places were more in number than just sit-down places to eat.
Mm-hmm.
But that was an interesting question, though, Ann. So I'm sorry I can't give you a more definitive answer about that.
I wish I could also, but I can't right now. You know, I guess I'll be able to think about it one day.
Mm-hmm.
Well, sure. Well, we hope we continue the conversation, and we just love hearing your stories and just how you're just triggering memories for each other. So yeah. So Sandra, please continue. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Oh, no. Because you all remember the little tavern?
Yeah, little tavern.
And I don't think that we could go to the little tavern, could we?
Yeah, you could. You went to little tavern. We used to walk from the racetrack with my daddy, and he would stop in.
Okay.
The bakery, remember the bakery on Main Street? Right
Cotilia's Bakery.
Right across from Cook's hardware store. We had the bakery.
Yes, I do.
Cotilia's Bakery.
Yeah, I didn't know the name, but I know we used to go to a bakery on Sundays right on Main Street.
Yeah. Were you asking me about that, Ann, at one time? What was the name of that? Anybody recall that name?
This is
Cornelius Bakery.
Cordelia's.
Ed know it.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, we talked
I
about
do remember that.
And we
Mhm.
couldn't go to, and it was a long time before we could go. What is it called? Ollie's or Oliver's on Main Street? I mean, yeah. You know what I'm talking
Oliver's?
about? Huh?
Oliver's just come to Main Street.
Where was
Yeah,
that?
but we couldn't go there for a long time.
You talking about the place right
No.
across from the church?
No,
No.
no. You know where you turn to go down Main Street? What was that called? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
What's
Oliver,
it?
was it Oliver or Tolliver? What was it?
Was one of them. I can't remember.
Yeah, Oliver's Old Town Tavern. That's the older one, or Town Tavern was probably the older
Right.
name of
Oh,
it.
okay. Town
That's
Tavern.
kind of where 6th Street is, because that was the old trolley stop.
Town Tavern. Somebody,
Yeah.
Charlotte just put the
Yeah,
Town
Town
Tavern up there.
I saw that. Thanks, Charlotte.
Yeah. It was a
Okay.
long time I was grown. But we could go there.
Where was
Barely can go there now.
that?
Huh?
Where was it at?
You know where you come down Montgomery Street and you turn where the church, you know where the church is right there on the corner?
Oh yeah, Town Tavern.
Is that what
Town.
Yeah.
That's what Charlotte just said it was called the Town Tavern.
Yeah,
Okay. So,
yeah.
right.
Mhm.
Well, so what's it called now?
Oh, it's another name now. It's a restaurant.
Oliver's?
Isn't it? No.
Oliver. Called Oliver's.
Called Oliver.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And
And then-
before I'm sorry, Pat, go on.
And then you had the little store on the corner. What was the man named by the laundromat? Mr. Come down Montgomery Street. You had the little corner store, and then you had the laundromat and Law Elementary.
Donaldson.
Yeah, Donaldson.
Donaldson.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Thank you, Michael Donaldson.
I remember that. I
Go
do
there,
remember that. I remember
Yeah,
Donaldson.
Yeah, Donaldson.
Because that along with they stole appliances, didn't they?
Yeah, appliances, and they had candy in there too when we went with our
Right.
parents. Laundromat. Yeah, Donaldson. Mm-hmm.
And before we run out of time, and if you could get to the slide with Helen Johnson, we feel really bad if I didn't mention about the late Helen Johnson. Oh, this is a picture of our culinary team, and I don't know when this was taken from, but with Weta Owens, like Lisa Wright, Troy Gibson, Andrew Gibson, and Robert Catchings. And somebody, when we were talking about Donaldson's, I thought something come up in the chat. Cynthia said that he was very friendly to Black.
He was. Yes, he was. He was good to Black people. Yes, he was.
Okay.
Yeah, he gave them loans on the machine. You could get something and pay later. He was really good.
Okay,
Yeah.
good.
His whole family, even after he died, his wife and children, they treated us good.
Okay. Now, this is a picture that I found. This was from a 1983 Women's Day. And we were sitting
that's a
down
picture from
to
Bible
have
school.
the after service meal, because after large event days at St. Mark's, such as Men's Day, Women's Day, Homecoming, Church Anniversary, things like that. After the service, everyone went downstairs and enjoyed a good meal. And they said it was, they never called it a brunch because it was more than that. It was a dinner. So you can see, a lot of those people, Miss Irene Nicholson, you can see Miss Dorothy Adams.
Mm-hmm.
Oh goodness, I can't think of Mr. Bush's wife's name. Oh goodness.
Martha.
Yes.
Martha.
And
It looks like Lena over there.
yep, Lena standing, and then I see Elva Wesley, some other people. So this was taken from a 1980 from the 1983 Women's Day for the after church service. And like I said, everyone was sitting there in anticipation of a good homemade meal.
Mhm.
And we all know this picture of Miss Helen Johnson, who we affectionately call Guinea. And she was the chairperson of our culinary committee for many decades. And she started having after service, said, sometimes people just want a little something to tide them over until dinner. So after services on Sunday, she would have a light fare meal for everyone to come down after being up in the sanctuary. You come down to the fellowship hall and enjoy a little light fare snack before you left. And she and her culinary committee, prepared and cooked the food for funeral repasts, weddings, and other special occasions like the special days I was talking about. And the kitchen was given her name in recognition of her many dedicated years of service. You can see the plaque there, and it was dated 2000. Mm-hmm. And she had, and you notice above her picture, it says, "This is God's church, but it's my kitchen." And that's how she was. I mean, because she was fabulous.
Mhm.
She was really fabulous, because I know, like I said, not only did she do things at the church, but I know that Guinea and her crew prepared all the food for my wedding reception. Did anybody else remember her doing anything other than the church like that? Okay, because I know she did the food for my wedding reception, and like I said, for all the repasts, special days. So she was very dear to our hearts and to the legacy of St. Mark's right now. And she would be pleased with the culinary committee that we've had since she's been, they do an outstanding job as well. So anybody want to add anything because this is basically what we discussed in our focus group. And I think as the questions came up, we answered all of the questions. And when we were talking about specialty foods, somebody brought up about Eleanor Lane's, what was that, banana pudding, or was that bread pudding that was there? Bread pudding. And I mean, like I said, it was just too many people to even mention about the dishes that they were famous for.
Mhm.
Because it was just, sometimes on Sundays you could go from house to house, and if you were with someone who lived in the house, you were never told, well, I can't feed you.
That's right.
Or you'll have to go home to eat, or anything like that. When dinner was served, you sat down and you ate good just like everybody else. So I mean, it was just wonderful. And as I said, I still don't know why all of us didn't weigh about 300 pounds. we ate so well. We ate so well.
Yeah.
Well,
I want to, Anne, are there any other questions that came up in the chat that we can address?
What I was going to say is I wanted to take just a few minutes and go through just to wrap up our exhibit. And then that'll be a good opportunity for any other questions or comments in the chats. And then we'll just wrap up with a few of those questions at the end. So I just wanted to go back and share my screen, because this will highlight a couple of the points that we've been talking about. So this is the section that's still in process, and this is a sneak preview of the exhibit that will be opening next Friday. So we were able to take all this wonderful information that you've been working on and presented and talked about with your panel discussion and Sandra, and Jackie wrote it up. So all of their work and words are on the text panels there. And you can see in the little display case, we have also some components of community cooking. So we have our copy of Emancipation Day Parade, a t-shirt from the Emancipation Day celebration as well as the plaque that's on loan to us from St. Mark's Church. And we're very grateful for that. So there's still a few components missing. We will have Mrs. Johnson's picture hanging there as well. But for all of those, for you asking about the recipes, we were very thankful that Jackie was able to loan us a copy of a Vacation Bible School cookbook that the church put together in, I think 2002. So we do have a couple, so we have that on display. And then I was able to take the famous cold oven pound cake and I retyped that. So we put it on our website as just an excerpt of that cookbook, and just kind of a wonderful connection for the exhibit that we're having. And like Mrs. Awkward was saying, that they really did start in a cold oven, and it's the pound cakes are nice and dense. They're not kind of fluffy like the angel food cakes or some of the chiffon cakes. So starting it in a cold oven, it was a nice way to keep it nice and dense and moist like that. So I just wanted to share that with you as well. And then this is just a logo for our exhibit. So just another reminder that we will be opening our exhibit next Friday, and then that will be the start of our open hours. So we are open Friday, Saturday, and Sunday from 12 to 4 now through the rest of the year. So we hope that you will be able to come to the museum, see the section that you have all contributed so much to, and then see the rest of the exhibit as well. So just another quick couple of seconds. These are just some of the behind the scenes of our installation process. So you can see it's going to be a nice, bright, colorful exhibit, kind of meant to highlight, all the different ways that food is enjoyed and celebrated in Laurel. And again, just as a reminder, we do have individual memberships for the Laurel Historical Society, as well as donations to the Historical Society as well. And then coming up, just if I can plug 2 additional webinars we have coming up. We have one in March celebrating Women's History Month. We will have an author talk about her recently published book based on her collection of 3,000 cookbooks. Now, I love cookbooks, and I know everyone here loves to cook as well, but I do cook from cookbooks. I don't cook usually from memory or anything like that, but I can imagine having a collection of 3,000 cookbooks. So if you're interested in that, I'll put the registration information in the chat just shortly, and you can sign up for that for next month. And then the following month in April, we'll be doing something in celebration of Maryland Archaeology Month, and that will be kind of a unique combination of a chef and an archaeologist, and talking about his experiences in the field working with Native American artifacts, and then turning that into modern day Native American food and tradition. So he's kind of mixing both of his experiences in that. So he'll be presenting that for us for April. And then this is our contact information. So if you have any questions or follow-up for us at the Historical Society, please feel free to call or email. And again, I hope you stop by soon when we open next week for our exhibit. So I am going to stop my share right now and put that information into the chat with you. But Monica and Riley, I'm going to ask, were there any other questions or chats that came up while I was talking?
And
yep, Sandra, what's?
I muted myself.
Okay, no,
someone brought up something very important that I neglected to put. St. Mark's was always responsible for the dessert table at the Main Street Festival, and a lot of the ladies prepared their homemade goodies for the dessert table at the Main Street Festival. Thank you, Charlotte, for bringing that up. And the cold pound cake, it says Nina's, but Mrs. Awkward, that's the name that her grandchildren, her great-grandchildren call it. So that is the recipe of Mrs. Mildred Awkward. because it
Okay.
says Nina's, but that's
Okay.
what the Mrs. Awkward's grandchildren and great grandchildren call her. So
Okay,
that is her recipe.
okay, so they're one and the same. That's excellent.
One in the
Thank you for-
same, one in the same.
Okay.
'Cause I wanted everybody to know that that is her recipe.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, Sandra, I think we touched on a lot. I'm just going to go back. I don't know if you can actually see anything in the Q&A box, but going back just real quick, I wanted you to clarify for us the renovations around the first church. They were all done, you know, kind of building on to that. The original church wasn't, you know, reconstructed or, you know, raised or anything like that.
Are you talking about the St. Mark's building?
Yeah.
Okay, because the picture, I was just assuming that the picture was only showing, that's what our building looked like that was constructed in 1921, I believe.
Right, okay.
And in 1979, the newly finished kitchen and fellowship hall were completed in December of 1979. The consecration service was held for the completion of that addition to our building.
Okay, great. Yeah, and so I think we have in our notes, and please correct me if I'm wrong, because we're all eager to get this information correct. So the church was completed though in 1923. So are you coming up on your 100th anniversary next year, or have you already celebrated that?
No. Our church is
133.
Well, the church was founded because the church was founded in a people's, the Carter's home.
Right.
And,
so the sanctuary then.
Then that first sanctuary was built, and it was then I think is that the history states that building was put on logs and horse drawn and was moved across the street to the other side of 8th Street. And the building that we're in now, that's the beautiful stone building that we're in now, that was constructed in the 1920s. And there were, you know, renovations probably done between them, but major, no, there were not.
Okay.
Until the fellowship hall and the was completed in 1979.
Okay, wonderful.
And we've done renovations. We've changed the sanctuary, the pulpit areas, you know, things like that. But as far as major changes are concerned, in fact, during the pandemic, in March of last year, David can attest because David is the chair or the president of our trustees. We had a lot of work done, renovations done in our fellowship hall where new flooring was put down, new windows, some work was done in the kitchen area. And so, you know, even though it's the pandemic, we're still moving forward.
You know that well, Sandy. You handled that very well.
Oh, thank you. You and Jan told me everything that was done, so I try to remember it all.
I know. Are we getting close to closing? Because I wanted to, if we could go back to the slide with the baseball team. Would that be? Can we do that real quick?
Yeah.
Because I have a question. Since this slide is going to be, I think it's supposed to be put up in the museum.
I think that picture has already been placed there, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
Is that
there
picture in
names?
the museum or it has been?
Is Michael still here? Because is the names with these players or?
Yeah, that's an important part. We did have it displayed as part of our.
I'm seeing some of them, and I can recognize some of these guys, and I know that looks like Dinky. And I heard George talking about being the bat boy, so I know that's George.
And Mr. William Gibson was the manager, if I'm not mistaken.
I think that's William right there, back there in the back.
Right. And I see my father. And Miss Sister, do you see your husband in there? Because I'm sure he was in that picture.
I That look like
anybody in it.
that look like Tater. That look like Tater standing beside William. But it's,
Yeah,
I was just curious.
okay.
I was just curious,
Okay.
was there going to be any names put beside him or not, so we can.
Yeah, we would
Listen,
love that.
you know what?
Might
I
be.
really wish that I could have gotten everyone identified when my dad was still living.
I think Joe Watkins might be in there too.
Yeah, right, because he was the pitcher. Joe
Yeah,
Watkins, he was the pitcher.
Right.
But
It might be
as
Joe
far
beside
as
William.
knowing who all these
that's
people are,
Joe.
David,
Huh?
yeah.
Well, yeah, I would love to sit down with a copy of the photograph. If you come to the museum, or we could just go down the street to St. Mark's and
Okay. Yeah,
see
Leon,
what you remember.
that's Bush right there. Yeah, you're right,
Right,
Leon.
right. Somebody just, I think Leon just put
Joe
in about about Philip Gibson being
That's
next to
right,
some guy, because
yeah.
he played as well.
Mm.
And that's Joe
You know,
Watkins.
I just want to know if the name was going to be about it. That's interesting. I like
Yeah.
to see that. Where'd you get that, Sandy? From Mike?
Mhm.
Well, this picture, I don't know where that picture came from. Because my father may have had a copy of that picture, but I don't know how it got in the hands of the Laurel Museum. But there was a gentleman years ago, because remember in 1999 when the Laurel Stars were
They dedicated.
they were recognized
I can remember. Yeah, I
during
can remember when.
Emancipation, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, when Bugs and Popeye and all them
Right,
was around
right.
there.
When
Yeah,
they
I
were
remember
all
that.
recognized. And
And
at
my
that
brother-
time, there were probably, and I do have some of those pictures,
Okay.
now that you mention it. And there were about 8 to 10 of the gentlemen who were still living.
I think Tyrone's brother Larry has this picture of this team.
Right, I'm sure you do, because Joe had that picture.
Yeah, that's Joe on that end right there. That's Joe Watkins.
Right, because he was the best pitcher on the team.
Yes, and Larry
Yes.
has this. Yes, Tyrone's brother Larry has
Right,
this.
right. So that's a good idea if we could get together and try to identify everybody in the picture, because I know Philip Reese, I mean, I don't know if he is well enough to really recognize everybody now. And I see Karen put down about the gentleman who did he did a book about sandlot baseball.
Oh, okay.
In PG County, and Laurel was, one of the teams. And
Sandy, I have,
like I said, I have that. I know that picture is somewhere, and I may have shared it, but it's been a long time ago. But I do have the recent pictures from the 1999 honor program that was done for them on Emancipation Day. I do have those pictures.
Sandy, I have a copy of the book if you'd like to see it. And there's a section in Sandlot, the Soul of Baseball. Valerie told me about the book. Valerie. And I have a copy of it, and it has the picture in it. And it also has some things about some of the players.
Okay.
It's called Sandlot.
It's a Sandlot, the Soul of Baseball.
Yeah, I have that book too.
And because of segregation back there in that time in the 20s, 30s, 40s, I mean, some of those, if you ever went to some of those games, I mean, those people were just as good as any Major League Baseball team. And I mean, they made fantastic plays. And I know my father was a catcher. He loved it. And so did the other people, the gentleman who played as well. And they attracted a lot of people on the Sunday games. As Miss Awkward said, all of the games were in the afternoon because everybody went to church first. And then you played the game afterwards. And I mean, it was something to do every Sunday, something to do.
Also, David, The names of the players are listed in this book.
Oh, wonderful.
And then it's all the names of the players in the
good. Good,
Okay,
Jackie.
great.
Next time I see you, Jackie, I'll look at that. Thank you. Mhm.
And Andy, I think, do you have a copy of this? This will help you also because
I have that
it's
book.
listed here. And Mrs. Alquist has a copy of it also, so that'll solve the problem of naming.
Oh, okay. Because I was wondering if because I know that with the book, the gentleman did such a thorough and fabulous job with the book that I know he probably took the time to, because like I said, at that time, there were about 8 or 10 of the gentlemen who were still living.
Yeah.
And right now, to my knowledge, only Philip Reese is the only one that I can think of.
Dink is the only one. Dink is the only one.
Right. And George
George would know a lot about him because, like I say, he was the. And I want to put Michael in there too, because Michael knows about him.
You still got Lee Moore living.
David,
Mr. Lee Moore. That's right.
Lee Moore still living.
Oh, okay. Thanks, Mike.
David, did Fat Stuff play ball with them?
No.
Okay.
He was too young.
Shook did. You know, Shook played
okay.
some. No.
Okay.
Okay. Now,
And were there any other questions?
We're finished, or we're going back to some more food?
You're having too much fun.
No, I think that kind of wraps up everything. You have just done such a wonderful job. So please just, accept my thanks and my gratitude for everything that you've done. Again, not only for the program tonight, but throughout the research process for the exhibit. And we just hope that, we continue to hear the stories and to document and get names and pictures and photographs and most importantly, recipes. So we're still going to hold you to getting some recipes for us. But I will just put another bug in your ear that I know I got feedback from quite a few people that when we first put the webinar together and we announced it, that they were very excited because they thought it was going to be an in-person presentation with a potluck to match. So maybe when we can all get together again and it's safe to do so, that we could redo this presentation along with these potluck recipes that everyone is known for, and that could be a fundraiser for St. Mark. So let's put that in the back of our mind, and hopefully later on this year we can all get together and redo the presentation with some food. So let's think about that.
I don't know if we can replicate the types of food we grew up with.
Well, you certainly have made everyone's mouth water. And like I said, I hope everyone ate before they started to sit down to this, because it's just been fabulous. And just to hear the range of just the individual food and the dishes, and just to know all the preparation that went into it, and the types of ingredients and where they were sourced from, and everything else, it's just mind blowing. And again, thank you. This has been our biggest and our best presentation, and I'm just so thankful for everyone's stories and just having just a really great conversation. And I wish it really could have been in person, but this has been a good second best. So if there are any other questions or last minute comments or feedback or anything like that, I'll be happy to open up the floor again.
I'd like to just thank my St. Mark's family for helping me out, and because whenever I ask them for their participation, whatnot, they never say no, and I'm grateful and I'm thankful for that. And because some of us remember more than others, so it's really great when you get a good group of people and we can collaborate and just share ideas and share thoughts and bring back certain memories. So I'd just like to thank my St. Mark's family.
Thank you, Sandy.
Sandy.
And I would like to say this has just been wonderful. And I look forward to the fundraiser. And it's just been great. So thank you, everyone. You made
Yeah.
my heart sing.
Again, I reiterate, Sandra's words, thank you to all of our panelists, but especially thank you to Sandra and Jackie for, taking the lead on the research and the panel presentation. And the same thing, the compliment you gave to your panelists, Sandra, I can give back to you whenever we ask you for a question or wherever I ask you for help or support, you always are there to say yes. And so we're very grateful to have that relationship with you, especially, and everyone at St. Mark. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, Sandra. Thank you, Jackie, for making this happen tonight. And again, just one last reminder, museum opens again next Friday, and we hope to see everyone out, and there'll be more recipes and more memories down the line. So if there's anything else I can help out with, or any other questions or follow-ups, please contact the museum. And if not, then I am going to end the recording right now, and I will stick around for a few more minutes as everyone leaves. So again, thank you for being here tonight, and bon appetit.